Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack. Logano has been the class of the field.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Yeah, I need to change my underwear.
With Texas in the rear view, NASCAR heads out west as we go to Phoenix, baby. We go to the desert, back-to-back weeks, which Brian and I will have some information about here shortly. Very excited. We'll get some traditional ovals finally. No super speedways, no lefts and rights, all of that good stuff. So we'll talk Phoenix today, get you set for that betting card, some initial leans, some initial thoughts, where our kind of our heads are at least prior to practice and qualifying. But with that being said, Brian, let's dive into the week that was before we get into the week that is. COTA was awesome.
It was incredible
in a big way. I didn't get an outright winner. I didn't even have a great week betting. I still had a lot of fun watching it. I think the track changes were A plus. I think the tire fall off was actually a thing. Like there was an existence of tire fall off. And just no Mother Nature. Like it was a pretty compelling race, a fun race, and obviously, for those of you that either bet the bell before the race or rang the bell during and got really nice numbers, like my co-host, for example, congratulations. That was a great bet. I unfortunately took the Lucy in the football and bet the guy whose wheel couldn't even stay on the car. So Brian Twining, initial COTA thoughts. Where's your head at following the race, and did you have fun watching?
Yeah, I thought as compelling as both Daytona and Atlanta were, I think from a pure racing perspective, I think COTA was probably the best race so far this season because you had multiple different guys that looked like they were going to be able to win the race up front. And then you had the same thing with the rabbit or with the Greyhound chasing the rabbit of Christopher Bell trying to catch up to Kyle Busch, and that craziness that was happening. And you could tell that Bell did not want to make it 3 consecutive times here where he destroyed Kyle Busch's race, which kind of had me thinking that it was going to be KB crossing the checkers.
I was really hoping that Bell was going to push him out again. Wormy mentioned this. I was watching his post-race poll, which he went on obviously after hitting the Bell outright. Did you feel like Kyle Busch was a little legitimate contender, or do you think it was only a matter of time before somebody passed him?
I think when he initially took the lead, I thought, oh, he'll be up here for a few laps and then the other guys will catch him. But then as the laps started winding down, before we got that last caution, I started to actually think that Kyle Busch was going to be able to do this because of how good he is at defending and knowing that Christopher Bell, the guy that was trying to run him down, going back to what I just said, was definitely not about to move him for a third time. As much as Bell wanted to win, Kyle Busch probably would have flipped his lid and gone bulldog on him.
Kyle Busch is always flipping his lid. That guy's constantly really, really mad about something.
Yeah, so I mean, part of me thought he had a chance, but also at the same time, you just look back at what we've seen with him in the RCR car, and it only seemed inevitable that Bell or Byron was going to catch him. And then, for what it's worth, like, after Bell got past Busch, then Byron got past him, and then Tyler Reddick came out of nowhere, which I don't know where the hell that speed came from in the 45, because early on in the race, kind of what we talked about post-practice, he didn't have long run speed. So I don't know if they made adjustments or maybe he just kind of rode around while the other guys up front were battling it out, so they ate their tires a little bit more. But yeah, I thought there was going to be a chance if Byron and Bell got into it that Reddick was going to steal a win, kind of like Chastain did a couple of years ago.
That was my dream scenario, is that Byron is going to get into Bell's thing and they were going to end up on the side of the track and Reddick was going to go by and cruise to a victory. And then when we got that late caution and SVG had the best tires and arguably was awesome for most of the day, I thought, he's just going to go up there and win it. And he was basically a non-factor after the restart, which was pretty shocking.
Bullied. If you go back and you rewatch that restart, he got taken from both sides. Like, guys just said, get the
Interesting.
hell out of the way, rookie. We don't care how old you are, how good you are, supposedly on road courses, or that you beat us in Chicago. Like, this is the Cup Series, and we're not going to allow you to just run up here and showboat on us. We're going to give you some bumps and bruises early on in your first full season here in the Cup Series.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting, given his only real win is at the rain-soaked Chicago street race, but he's also looked really good, so I don't
Yeah,
really know what to
he's
make
looked
of.
fine. Like, I will say, I thought it was really interesting that you heard a couple of guys complain about like a certain set of tires wasn't good. I mean, freaking AJ Allmendinger, top 10, top 5 car, quite possibly one of the best cars, maybe the only other guy that I thought was going to be able to compete with Christopher Bell. As I
Yeah.
texted Kyle, I grabbed him live because he was throwing down the fastest laps on the track for quite some time early on. All of
Mhm.
a sudden, the parachute came out and he fell all the way back. I believe it was 31st. He wound up crossing the finish line and there was no mention of it. There was no talk of what happened to him. And then Chastain too,
Yeah.
losing the top 10. Like, that to me was the only negative of the race. Is, again, going back to the broadcast of Fox. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm starting to understand people's
Yeah.
frustrations with Fox. That being said, as a Max subscriber, the in-car cameras are fucking incredible. They have 2 sets of quad boxes, so I had those up for a while. I had some Larson, I had some Reddick. I mean, it was awesome. So I had the Fox broadcast kind of on the I have a big TV and then a smaller one set up downstairs in my front room. So it's very, very ideal for this. But I'll have the Fox broadcast on the small TV just so I can hear the audio in case there's something that's happening and I can't tell just from looking at the car, figuring out what
Yeah.
happened. And then I had the quad box up and different flipping around and watching the in-car stuff, and it was so sweet. It was just legit. I was just like the kid on Christmas, just like happier than a pig in shit. Like it was the best. It was the
Hey,
best.
hey, that was me post race when Christopher Bell brought
Mhm.
it home after grabbing an absolutely absurd 28-1 live line.
Yeah. Yeah, you told me about it. It was still 25. Did I grab it? No, because I wasted my live bullet on on the number 5. So let's talk about our bets. And we'll run through some more thoughts as we kind of keep this thing going. So let me do, I think it's this one. No, it's this one. Just kidding. As a reminder, we are powered by Win the Race. Our friends over at Win the Race have an incredible product that we use for bets, we use for Drafkings, and most importantly, for that Discord, because
Oh
there's
yeah.
fun conversations. There's some compelling, interesting, fun, crazy bets getting thrown off in there. But let's talk about this week's card before we get into the Shriners. Reddick 850 went off at 4.5. Absolutely would make that bet again. Obviously, didn't love what we saw in practice, but getting that CLV, obviously, um, over the long haul, I think is going to be fine. Ross over Byron, I Byron's just so solid. Like he's a hard guy. Like I'm gonna be a lot more careful in fading him in matchups. That being said, if I think two guys are relatively similar and I can get a plus 130 on them, probably gonna do it. But yeah, I think I need to be a little more careful with Byron. I thought for sure when Denny had his front fender
Oh
ripped off
man.
and was spinning around, I was gonna cash the Logano over Denny, and of course the
He he raced almost 90% of the day without his right front fender.
yeah,
Like,
crazy.
I don't know how the hell he was able to keep the thing on the track after that.
Yeah. Ross plus 135 versus SVG. SVG kind of failed. And yeah, we'll talk grid rival and underdog because I'm honestly I did an underdog pick on. I tweeted it out. Went 4 or 5 with SVG over under 5.5, and he of course gets sixth. Alex Bowman. Alex Bowman had an incredible day for somebody who didn't finish in the barely finished. So the dude gets punted multiple laps down and somehow manages to pull a top 10. that tells me I was on the right side betting his top 5, betting him top Chevy. Obviously, they both didn't cash. But the dude was a couple laps down, was back, and then he moves through the field, races strong, ends up having another top 10 day. So if you had him top 10, congratulations. If you had him in matchups and those cashed, good job. The bet of the day, of the century, of the week, McDowell over Suarez.
Look, Suarez had the track position and he looked like the better car,
he
but
looked good, but he
what
does
I
what
said
Daniel
leading
does.
into the race just came to fruition. Like this guy had always qualified really well here, and it never seems to fail here at COTA. He
Yeah,
can't get out of his own damn way. And this time he actually took out Connor Zilic, who, a lot of people were talking shit about him, and maybe rightfully so with him opening up as like co-favorite, which is ridiculous.
yeah,
But he had a solid car, and I think he was destined for at least a top 10 with the lap times that he was able to throw down until Mi Amigo went in there and completely cleaned him out, took both of them out of the race, and then had us cashing this McDowell Suarez matchup like it was as easy as 1, 2, 3.
yeah.
So I it just went back to a lot of times you can look at guys, doesn't matter how good their cars are, they always put themselves in harm's way, and so I'm almost always going to fade drivers like that in that situation, especially when they drop a number like they did post practice and qualifying with McDowell, such a large underdog based on their qualifying positions.
Right. So based on their qualifying, but given the track history for both guys, outside of the year, Mike Dowell's basically power steering just went to shit. He had smoked them. So we're like, well, what? This doesn't make any sense.
And this is now, I believe, 12 of the last 16 traditional road courses that McDowell has beaten Daniel Suarez. I
Yeah.
mean, the trends are there for a reason.
Right. So you can buy into them, you can fade them, you can do what you want. But I'm pretty happy with my card despite a lot of red on there. Also, not betting a lot turns out it makes it a little bit better.
Yes.
Reddick, you were there too, 850. McDowell over Suarez, cash that. Cindric top forward, he was bad, and we'll talk Drafkings here in a second. But that was my favorite guy that we avoided was just out on Daniel or out on
I
Austin
didn't
Cindric.
back with the squirrels.
Yeah, and you obviously hit McDowell Suarez minus 115. You saw the plus 160. You said I'm grabbing some of that too. Obviously, cash that. Your plus 140 on Bowman. That was a great bet. Top 10, 3-1. So that was a nice hit.
McDowell top 10 is my most irritating bet of the year so far. Considering he dealt with a pit road penalty, too many men over the wall, having to go to the back of the field, and he still wound up 11th. And I'm pretty sure he allowed his former teammate Todd Gilliland to run away from him, because when I was watching the lap times, he was making up a good 1.5 to 2 tenths per lap as we were winding down, and he
Yeah.
was within like 2 to 3 tenths with a couple laps to go. And so I don't know if that was when Gilliland took out Chastain on the final lap and McDowell just kind of held back, but finishing 11th, that was brutal after the day that he dealt with. Yeah, that one hurt.
Yeah, congratulations to those Gilliland betters who got it. There was, I said,
It was like
double
11 or
digits,
14, I think.
11. Yeah, so nice work if you hit that. But Brian, we're still in the green. Obviously, I'm fading a little bit, but still doing okay. And then obviously you're moving forward a little bit.
Slow
Um,
and steady march. It's all it's about.
absolutely, yeah. It's a long season. We don't need to get aggressive in March. At least until the tournament starts. Let's talk our DraftKings. It was a frustrating week. I ended up with a lot more Kyle Larson than I expected. I think one of my things I'm going to try and do. It's hard when you have a 1-year-old running around and we're watching the previous poll and we're trying to get final bets in and stuff. But I really want to recap my player pool and figure out where my lineups are at, because I had a lot of Larson and I loved Larson coming into the week. I thought he could be good. Obviously, we saw some good stuff in practice, but the bed shitter is the bed shitter for a reason. So maybe overexposing ourselves to Kyle Larson, which honestly, if he comes in at sub 10% and it was awesome like we were seeing, we're probably loving life. So maybe it was a right or bad result, right play, but
I
think
have a
Bowman,
pretty bold take on Kyle Larson.
yeah. This was the cash lineup. It's basically the same. It was just a little tweak on it, but basically going, Larson and cash was dumb, but Bowman 90% was crazy. Busher, obviously, the Riley Herbst call ended up being pretty solid, even though he only finished 17th, was still decently solid. So overall, and then SVG was fine, all things considered.
Shit, Riley Herbst had more fast laps than both Chris Buescher and Alex Bowman.
That's crazy.
I think Riley Herbst is going to surprise some people the duration of this season.
Yep. Let's see. This is another lineup we built. Busher was fine. This was our best lineup. It's funny because we wrote up in the newsletter, which I'll pull up right now. Or actually in a minute. But my favorite target was Tyler Reddick. Your favorite was Kyle Larson. We ended up with a lot of SVG, so good for us. And then here's the Reddick lineup. So pretty similar numbers for Reddick. But if this was like literally anyone else, it would have been a much better day.
But I mean, when you look at Larson, outside of him wrecking,
Yeah.
5 fastest laps, and that was also with him once he was junked. He was shit. Like when he's thrown to the back. I mean, he really wasn't battling for a race win or anything, and then it was just kind of.
Well, that's the thing about Larson too. It's a little frustrating. Like Bowman got thrown to the back, and he worked his way back to the field, and we've seen other guys do it. Larson's just like, I'm not dealing with this shit. I'm just gonna ride around back here and call it a day. Justin Haley was another one that was a really good call, kind of in that low 6Ks. That ended
He's
up
a survivor,
working.
man.
Yeah, he was even flirting with the top 10 for a while. So putting that aside and remembering that for future races. I do want to talk about our Grid Rivals picks because we cashed another one this week. If you aren't subscribed to our newsletter, it's completely free. It shows up in your inbox every race day. AOPpodcast.substack.com. AOPpodcast.substack.com. We do our Drafkings thoughts. As I mentioned, Brian was on Larson. Bowman, Riley Herbst, wrote him up. Cashed that. That was a good one. I had Blaney. He was a little more popular than I kind of
Blaney
expected.
and Buescher, those are good.
Oh yeah. But yeah, Buescher better than 13.5. SVG plus 1.5. This wasn't even the one that cashed, is it?
No.
Well, shit.
Kyle's out here promoting stuff.
Well,
But
I did.
I mean, even when
did
you look
have
at
one.
this
I
one,
tweeted it out, I believe, but it was from pre-practice. I don't know. We definitely tweeted it out because you tweeted one out, and then I went and made one, and that's the one that cashed.
yeah.
This one was really good. I'm trying to remember. I went 4 out of 5. I'm trying to remember. Oh, Gibbs. We had Gibbs in here, and Ty Gibbs was not good. No.
I stick by my statement that Carson Hocevar will win before Ty Gibbs.
Yeah. And then you see our bets and stuff in here. So make sure you're checking this out. It's really good info, and you can either fade it or follow it or anything you want to do. Brian Twining. Anything else from COTA? Any takeaways? Any thoughts? Any anything that you want to make sure we hit on before we turn the page, head to Phoenix, and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so as I kind of mentioned, as we were reviewing some of the DraftKings lineups, my bold take on Kyle Larson, and just kind of something that popped into my head as I was watching Christopher Bell make his run to the front and win his second consecutive race. Is anybody else starting to think that maybe we were too fast to crown Kyle Larson the best stock car racer and best racer overall in America?
Chase Briscoe's the best.
Think about Christopher Bell for a second. Yes, Kyle Larson's got a championship. He had that 10-win season. But Christopher Bell finally allowed to jump into dirt racing, into the little mini things, racing with Kyle Larson. He's already beaten Larson once in his own field of racing that he's been doing for multiple years now, that HMS was allowing him to do. Christopher Bell, he's won at a super speedway. I don't think it's comparable, their skills on super speedways. Christopher Bell is much better than Kyle Larson. Christopher Bell, clearly better at COTA. Christopher Bell, the best driver at Phoenix. He opens this week. We see when we look at the stuff, the best driver at the championship race location. Christopher Bell, right up there with Kyle Larson at 1.5s. Christopher Bell. I'm of the opinion now that I think Christopher Bell is much closer to Kyle Larson than people want to admit. And he is on the precipice. How the hell you say that word?
Precipice
Of putting together a Kyle Larson-like, maybe not duplicating 2021, where he just went and absolutely destroyed the Cup Series.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue if you really want that Kyle Larson's not even the best car in Hendrick. We could also say Christopher Bell is on the precipice
There you go.
of a William Byron season where he wins a few early. Chris Wormy calls him the Jimmy Johnson,
no.
and then he just goes to shit for 3 months.
I don't see that happening though. I mean, when you look at what they've done the last 2 years, and I think what makes Kyle Larson so good is the fact that he can win anywhere.
Yeah.
But Kyle Larson also has that checkers or wreckers type of driving where Christopher Bell, I don't think that's really in his like repertoire. Like if he's not good, he's at least bringing it home in the teens or maybe at the back half of the top 10.
Yep. That's fair. Completely fair. Let's turn our attention to the
and one more thing. You cannot tell me that Christopher Bell couldn't also jump in an IndyCar. And I don't know about competing like Kyle Larson did because we don't really know how he would do there. But just knowing how good of a racer he is, I would not put it past him. If he was in similar equipment, he could do similar.
I don't know if they could do this, but it would be really fun to get a Champions League for car driving.
And like in the off season?
Yeah, I mean there really isn't an off season, but there is a couple months. But you could do like 2 IndyCar, 2 stock car, 2 dirt, and like 2 F1 something, and get like Verstappen, Lando Norris, Kyle Larson, Chris Bell, Joseph Newgarden, whoever.
You know how easy that would do if they stayed on like the southwest and southeastern parts of the United States. Like they come out here to California, Arizona.
Yeah,
it's cold.
You could do F1. You could do F1 at COTA. You could do.
Texas might have snow though at that when it's off season.
That's fair, but like I don't know, maybe like you do like a month break like they do for Olympics and hockey or whatever.
Nobody would go for that.
I don't know.
I see what you're saying though. I think that
probably
would be
not reasonable. And maybe it's something where they could do like 2 stock car races and 2 IndyCar races in the off season of both sports, and then maybe have a week where they do the 2 F1. I don't know. There's something there where it's like a Champions League of auto racing.
Put them in like Cars Tour Dirt or something, and then
So send them to Eldora. Just put them in. There's lots of stuff you could do.
Oh man, that sounds wonderful.
Yeah. So that's my pitch to all the racing leagues is create a Champions League and let's make this shit happen. Brian, before we jump into Phoenix, I want to give the people a little preview of what's coming up ahead. So Brian will be at Phoenix. Make sure you hit him up if you are there. He'll also be recording from Phoenix, so we'll have to kind of get all of our bearings and whatnot. We will also, both of us, will be in Las Vegas, our favorite track, just from fun and excitement, and obviously it's our I guess would you call it our home track? Like was that?
I mean, it's definitely my home track.
I mean I'm technically closer to Sonoma, but like Vegas is so much fun, and we've done it
Oh,
a few
Vegas is
times.
fantastic.
So we'll both be in Vegas, so hit us up there. And I'm gonna turn the keys over to Brian because we have a little giveaway for all of our listeners. Now, the most important thing when he mentions this is you actually have to be able to go. Do not enter the contest if you are unable to attend the race. Go ahead, Brian.
So, for Vegas weekend, we're going to be giving away 2 tickets on pretty much on the start finish line to Friday night's probably Victoria's Voice 250 once again, the truck race. I am imagining that you're going to see another stellar performance by Mr. Raja Karuth, who won this race last year. So, if you want to enter this contest, you have to be subscribed to the channel. We need you to comment with the hashtag LV Trucks and tell us who is your favorite driver to win this weekend in the Cup Series at Phoenix. Once again, you got to subscribe to the channel, comment with the hashtag LV Trucks, and name the driver that you think is going to win this weekend in Phoenix. You do not have to pick the winner correctly to win this. This is going to be a random drawing. So just once again, tickets to the Las Vegas truck race in 2 Fridays from now. I believe it's March 14th. March
March
14th,
14th
Friday night,
at 6 o'clock Eastern time or 6 o'clock
Pacific.
Pacific time. And maybe you can see Kyle Busch win the race again. So if you are able to attend and you want to go, just put a comment and make sure you use the hashtag LV Trucks, all one word. I'll do a comment picker probably on this show next week, so we can get everything kind of organized ahead of the race, and we'll get those tickets to you. We'll get them transferred. I think they're digital, right, Brian?
Yeah, digital.
So we'll just transfer them to you digitally. No money exchange required. Just go to the race, have a hell of a good time, cheer on your favorite truck driver, and
Bring a jacket.
bring a jacket because it will be cold. And Brian and I won't be there Friday night, but we'll be there all day Saturday and all day, I think all day Sunday. So if you're there for Xfinity, if you're there for Cup, hit us up. We'll come say hello. That being said, Brian, anything else I'm missing, or should we just dive into this week's race at Phoenix?
Let's jump into this absolutely crazy. I have zero idea race.
It's a very interesting betting board. We'll talk through it. We'll see if we can come out with some bets. Christopher Bell, does he win 3 in a row?
It's definitely, I don't put it past him. I can tell you that.
The one thing I will say, and I've been thinking about this a little bit today, Arnold Palmer is this weekend. Phoenix is this weekend. It's a fun week if you dabble in the golf streets and NASCAR to put a little parlay together. Christopher Bell, Scotty Scheffler, Ryan Blaney, Rory McIlroy. Get some decent juice on some guys that maybe you don't love, or maybe you won't bet because like Brian and I, we have a really hard time getting to short numbers like this.
Yeah, I'm not
Obviously,
betting anybody at 4.
Obviously, there's exceptions. Maybe we're jumping in live. Maybe there's opportunities other ways. But you're like, I'm not betting Scotty Scheffler at 350, and I'm not betting Christopher Bell at 4.
Yeah.
But if I parlay them together and I can get better than 25-1 on it, maybe I'll have a fun sweat on Sunday. So something to think about if you're in both of those streets looking for a way to kind of get some action. So Bell, 5-1 is the best you can find in market, or at least from what I've seen.
Yeah, that's the best price.
Yeah, I thought I saw 550, but those are
That was
all
probably FanDuel early, but those are gone.
Blaney 550. You can get a 6 at Drafkings, which is kind of nice. Larson anywhere between 650 and 8. William Byron, you can get a 10 over at FanDuel. Denny is kind of that, but then Logano's. So I don't know. Shop it. There's some guys like in this range, but Anyways, Larson, Bell, Blaney, Byron. I don't think we're adding any four, at least at this point. If we're gonna wait for practice and qualifying to settle. But if you were taking a shot, is there someone in this group that stands out above the rest for you?
I mean, the two guys that I'm looking at, I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to approach this race from an outright perspective because, we have to mention before we even go any further, the fact that we are running the option tire that we saw at Richmond and the All-Star race last year for the first time at Phoenix. Last year, clear, Christopher Bell, favorite. I tweeted out a little bit earlier, the most consistent guy here, the only guy in the series that has 6 for 6 in top fives in the Gen 7 era is Ryan Blaney. So clearly those two guys. And I do think that they're helping keep guys like Larson and Denny, the two that I'm pointing out here, afloat at numbers that if you want to get in on them early, I do not hate that, especially after last year where Hamlin and the Toyotas, especially JGR, they were fast as hell during qualifying and they qualified up front. Track position is key here. It's always been difficult to pass here at Phoenix. And Kyle Larson, he started 4th or better in 4 of the last 5 trips to the desert. And if you're gonna tell me that I can get 8.5 on Kyle Larson, that's not a bad number.
No.
But you're then risking the fact that both Blaney and Bell, if they put it on the front row, Larson's probably still 8 or 8.5 post practice.
Yeah. You need Larson to be the best car if you're betting him at 850.
Correct.
I will say our friends over at Win the Race have Bell fair market value below 5-1. Blaney is below 6-1, and Larson is below 8-1. So, in theory, fair market value is fine if you're getting 8, 6, and 5. I think Larson's the one that makes the most sense. The guy that if we wake up on Saturday and we talk about the race after practice and qualifying, everything's been reposted. He's the one that he's 4.5 now. Like that's the one that seems like it moves dramatically.
He is this week's Tyler Reddick from last week at COTA, in my opinion.
So if you want to lock in that 850, I think that's fine. But I'm also willing to say I don't think any of these guys are screaming values above any of the other ones. So if you want to wait and see the practice sessions, see the qualifying, lock it in after that, I don't hate it. I'm not betting Denny. Denny for me is like, I don't know. Like we talk about him when we're talking about championship futures and like he's always really compelling and he wins a lot of races. But you're telling me we go to Phoenix and he's gonna win? Like I don't know. I don't see it. Like he hasn't. Or as I was just looking at it. Hold on one sec. He hasn't won since 2019. His best finish was back in 2021 where he was 3rd. Since 2022, he's 13th, 8th, 23rd, 8th, 11th, and 11th. Like he's solid. He's really, really good here. He's just not he's not somebody that, especially as good as Bell is and as good as Blaney is and as good as Larson is going to beat them. And if I'm going up against that, I want more juice than like kind of 10, 11, 12-1. Like
well, yeah, to your point, like the only way that I envision Denny getting, seeing a significant shortening of his odds is if he's on the front row. And
even then, what is he, like 7.5 or 8?
Yeah, he's probably like 7. Which, I mean, if you're getting 11 and you're going to 7, that's not terrible CLV.
Yeah. I don't know. Let's talk about the rest of the guys. So Logano, Elliott, Chase Briscoe, which I don't know what to do with him because
you are not betting Chase Briscoe at 12 or 13. No, I don't care what his history says here. It's his first year in the car, and the dude has James Small on the pit box.
Yeah. And he's great here in SHR, but he's not SHR anymore.
Yeah,
and I don't know what to do with him in the 19. Like he was much better last week, which was great to see. But I don't know, man.
Okay, so I think a perfect example as to why I'm scared off of Briscoe at anything under 20 here is when you go back and you rewatch last spring's race. Martin Truex Jr. had maybe the second or third best car, but James Small had him run as long as possible, which allowed the best cars in Christopher Bell and like William Byron and all those guys to make up a ton of ground after pitting. Had they pit maybe 15 to 20 laps sooner, Martin Truex Jr. is probably able to make up that ground that he surrendered because he's now on 20 lap better tires at the end of the run. And it's those decisions that I cannot get out of my head as to the reason why I am not betting Chase Briscoe at this short of a number when you have a guy in Ross Chastain who won the damn championship race, the first guy to ever win the championship race that wasn't in the Champ 4 just 2 years ago. He's been good here, sitting longer than him. And then Tyler Reddick, who just raced in the championship, who, despite him being the worst championship 4 drivers, the worst championship 4 driver last fall, he's been okay here in Phoenix. Like, you cannot get me to bet Chase Briscoe ahead of those guys, and I'm not even interested in those two prices.
Yeah. And if Briscoe is awesome and is the best car in practice and puts it on the pole, like he's not going to 4-1. So
No,
I'll bet this, even if it's 7 or 8. Like I'll happily jump in on that.
exactly. Yeah, there's
so
too many. There's too many negative factors surrounding that 19 team for me to want to get in on this price.
yeah, it's just like I don't. At least at this point, like of the upper echelon of prices, like I'm the only one that I'm even like halfway interested in is Kyle Larson, and I'm not even really betting that.
Yeah, I think Larson is probably the only one that is intriguing.
Yeah, no interest in Chase, right? 10-1.
Hell no.
Okay. Let's talk the kind of that next chunk. So Chris Buescher as long as 25, Ty Gibbs as long as 25. You can get Kyle Busch at 30, Josh Berry at 30, which he's, I don't know, it's weird. Brad K, Bubba Wallace, Alex Bowman. There's a 30, but there's also a 65. Like some of these guys, make sure you're shopping them.
Alex Bowman stinks here, by the way.
Yeah.
It's his home track, so
in that like 30 to 60 range before we get real into like the guys that are triple digits. Anyone that you're sort of kind of interested in?
I mean, I can't bet him just because I don't think he's got what it takes to win yet, and that's Ty Gibbs. But if he shows up this weekend like they did in the spring last year with that type of speed, I think this gets shorter, but it's not something that I'd even consider betting. And then Josh Berry was the other guy that I was very intrigued to see what his opening lines were, but I'm not going to be betting 30-1 when like yeah, the dude hasn't won yet in the Cup Series either.
I'm betting Chris Buescher before I'm betting Josh Berry at basically the same numbers.
Yeah, and I'm not betting Chris Buescher either because he sucks at qualifying.
Just RFK, what are you doing?
Yeah, so like there's too many variables entering this weekend's race for me to really get interested on too many of these outrights. The only guy, call me a homer, I do think that there's a CLV possibility here, and that's Bubba at 55, simply because we've seen the Toyotas last year. They showed up fast. Ironically, him not so fast when Reddick and then the other JGR guys were all inside like the top 10 in qualifying, and not Christopher Bell, obviously, because he's set up for the long run. But I do think that Bubba Wallace, based on the speed that he's shown on Saturdays early to begin this year and what we saw last year, a lot of the times, this number could get cut to about that 30 mark. And so again, like if you're shopping CLV, I don't hate that. Do I think he has a chance to win? Probably not. But with the option tire at 55, if he's to the front at the end and maybe they do a different call and they save their last set while everybody else is still on the regular, who knows?
I'm really tempted to bet Ty Gibbs. I did it last year in the spot. I got that CLV. It was nice. But to your point, 3 out of 4 finishes, 28th, 21st, 40th. Now, that being said, the second race of last year, he did start 6th and obviously had an accident.
Yeah,
And
that was the first lap of the race. I remember that they went into the first corner and he he went high and completely missed it and just
it was also the championship race.
Yep.
So is 28 the best I can get?
Yeah, probably. I have zero interest in Tyrone, by the way. Let me do a little shopping for you.
I'm gonna nibble it. I'm not going crazy, but I'm gonna grab a piece. He's not gonna win, like Brian said, but I think
Yeah, 28 is going to be the best.
I think he's worth. I'm putting half a unit on it, seeing if I can get some value. If he shows up and he's in the top 10 again, it looks really good in practice. That number is 12 or 14, and I'll be happy to have it. And we'll see what happens.
Do you remember last year when Gibbs was opening at that like 16 to 18 mark and we were actually considering, we think a win might be coming.
It was so dumb.
Wild times right there.
Yeah. So like RFK guys are somewhat interesting, but like Brian said, typically don't qualify very well. So I'm probably holding out. Yeah, I mean it's gross. Let's go into triple digits because I think there's a name that both Brian and I already bet. Can we still get 250 on Michael McDowell, or is 175 our best?
I think that's gone. I think
Okay.
that might be offshore only, to be honest with you.
Well, I'm gonna take the 175 over at Caesars. Do I think Michael McDowell is gonna win Phoenix most of the time? No.
He's 200 at Bet365 still.
Perfect. That's what I'm taking.
Yeah.
But I think there's a reasonable discussion to be had where Michael McDowell looks pretty good in practice and pretty qualifies pretty well.
Remember,
And
he's also Spire has an affiliation with HMS now, so
and we're taking it for pennies on the dollar. But 200 north of there, $5, $1 into 200. That sounds great. I told you could get that. So I'm gonna grab a little bit of that. Hope he qualifies well. Look for that number to be 40, 50 by the time we go off on Sunday, and hope strategy wins out. And whether he jumps on the option tire late or stays out when there's a caution, or who knows, but puts himself in position and finds a way to get there because he was really good here in the spring last year, right, Brian?
yeah, he's actually been pretty good here in the last two spring races. I believe he's finished 13th and 9th or 7th or something. And he's also one of the guys I look at when you introduce another literal option. I mean, in this case, the option tire. Him and Travis Peterson, they work extremely well together about trying to get different on strategy. And I could see them pulling the same move that Martin Truex Jr. and James Small did last year. But I trust Travis Peterson way more than I do James Small to actually bring him back down pit road to get tires, knowing that on the back half of that run, they would be quicker because they'd be on fresher stuff than everybody else that was going up that had pit before them. So yeah, at 175 or even 200, I don't mind $5 or whatever on that. And I mean, we're recording this late in the day, so we didn't get to mention it. Michael McDowell's top 10 opened at 10-1 on 365. I believe it's at Fanatics. It was also somewhere else, and then one of our offshores. I destroyed that. It's now down to 650 at 365. I think it's 7 elsewhere. So that's still a number I could get down at. Obviously, I prefer the 10-1 number, but yeah, McDowell is somebody to keep an eye on, especially in races that strategy might come into play.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that's a really good call on your part. Anybody else? Shane Van Gisbergen, Noah Gragson, Ryan
No,
Preece.
wait. According to Mike Joy and many other NASCAR broadcasters, Shane Van Gisbergen. I am going to jump through the television the next time I hear a NASCAR broadcaster or personality add an N to this guy's name. He's been on the scene for multiple years now. He's one of the most popular guys overseas. It's Van Gisbergen. There is no N. Thank you for attending my TED Talk. We continue.
I thought I was the only one that got unnecessarily flummoxed by people adding letters to words that don't exist.
Dude, I about threw my beer bottle at my television when I heard Mike Joy do it twice during COTA.
I mean, Mike Joy's an old man. Old people they say things. They say Chipotle, like they just.
And it depends on where you're from. I understand. Like some people may call it a jalapeno when it's a friggin' jalapeno.
Have you actually heard anyone other than seriously do it?
Yes, I've heard people call jalapenos. And not to reveal too much personal stuff, but I have family who call burritos burros because of where they're from. I am sorry, but
It's not a donkey. What are you talking
about? A burrito is a burrito, not a burro. Look, sorry, we've gone off the rails here. We got to continue with Shriner's Children's 500 talk.
Okay. Anybody else that you want to get to? And I mean, the other name that I've seen bantered around is a guy we talked about last week, Justin Haley. 250 is fine. I'm probably not betting it, but I could squint and see much under the Michael McDowell. Like if you want to put $5 on him too, that's probably $10 you're just throwing right into the incinerator. But I could see it.
Yeah, honestly, Haley, I'm not too high on. The guy that's right above him though. Similar conversation with Michael McDowell. Obviously, way less experience, but Riley Herbst, holder of 3 consecutive 17th place finishes to start his Cup Series full-time career, has been really good here in Xfinity Series.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he won the damn championship race just this past season, and we've seen 2311 already show up with some pretty damn good speed so far this season. And if he can back that up again this week at a track that he's fairly comfortable on, as we saw in Xfinity, and qualifies near the front, very similar to what we saw Legacy do last year with Eric Jones qualifying near the front. I don't think he's going to win whatsoever, but I love his placement markets. I think a couple of people in the Discord for Win the Race, they took a shot on him to be top Toyota. Just the number is extremely long. I don't hate that. I'm not going to do it, but I don't hate that because the number is ridiculous. But yeah, I think Herbst is somebody to keep an eye on this weekend too, especially if you can get him in those back marker matchups. I think he's somebody to try to cherry pick for.
Yeah, Herbst, Custer. There's a few guys that have done well here in Xfinity that I don't hate taking shots on, like Brian mentioned, as more of a, head-to-head group matchup with some of the other jabronis rolling around in the back of the pack. I was looking for those matchups, but Suarez, Gragson, Preece, Custer, like that's kind of interesting. I'll have to do some.
Preece, because Preece has always kind of been known as a short, flat guy too, and now he's in better equipment with RFK. I think he's somebody
I think that's what I'm wondering about, kind of in general, is like Preece. Now he's with RFK, Briscoe obviously with JGR, the Wood brothers with Josh Berry. Like, what does that look like? We'll say I don't think you're gonna find any good value this week in the top 10 market's weird. But like Custer, Herbst,
I don't hate grabbing the 7. I mean, he's another one I played at 10. But that's been nuked everywhere.
What about 8?
Ooh. Yeah, I don't hate 8 because again, you're taking a shot. That's the whole point about this, is that you're You're throwing a dart at 8-1 top 10.
Yeah,
$10.
you're betting Riley Herbst at double the odds for Christopher Bell to win the damn race.
That's so crazy. And he only has to finish. He doesn't have to beat everybody. That's the thing.
Exactly. So, let's look at if there's any interesting matchups. So Bell versus Blaney. Blaney at plus 110. I don't hate it. You're getting plus money on two guys that I think are a lot closer than this matchup would indicate. Gibbs is crushing Barry.
Okay, so just real quick before even looking further, if you're taking Blaney over Bell, I think you're better off just taking Blaney to win the race, because
That's
that's
a great point.
essentially what we're looking at right now.
It's an elite point. Gibbs at minus 140. I know it's a lot of freaking juice, but I feel like he's in I think he's like 2 tiers above. It's just we've seen his results last 3 out of 4, so maybe that's silly season. RFK versus 2311 plus money.
So the only thing about that matchup, because I actually do like the RFK side with plus money, I think there's a non-zero chance that all 3 2311 cars qualify significantly better than all 3 RFK
We can
guys.
bet it at like plus 140 on Saturday.
Yeah, like I think this gets longer, but you have maybe better longer on cars, because if you tell me you give me Buescher and Keselowski, Keselowski's not great here, but he's also really good at strategy plays, and then Priest is also really good here. I think at plus money, I think that'd be a great play. But I gotta see them do their normal, come with racing trim and suck at qualifying.
Yeah. Top Chevy, Kyle Larson 240, Byron 260, Elliott Ross at 650. I think is fun. I think that's the only one that I'd maybe take a shot on. Justin Haley at 65. I mean, feels aggressive, but I'd rather just bet him in top 10. I think.
Do me a favor on here at Caesars. Do they still have driver to win pole?
Let's take a peek.
Wow, they have a lot of Hey, hats off to Caesars, man.
Yeah. Yes, they do have driver to win pole.
All right. So Phoenix, stage 1, nobody has to stop. They're going to run right through this thing. So if you have a good handle on who you think is going to win the pole, if it's possible, I do not hate trying to parlay driver to win pole and win stage 1.
What just happened?
No, stage winner, sir.
Why did it? It just took me.
Go back.
I know it took me to another page when I clicked on it.
When you clicked on what?
When I clicked, so stage 1, Chase Briscoe 10-1. There it goes.
Now scroll down, driver to win pole. Let's see if it allows you to do this, because
it probably won't.
It's
down here. It is.
Oh, come on.
But if you're like, I like Chase Briscoe. I think he can be good in stage 1. Bet him to win stage 1 at 10-1 instead of to win the pole at 5. Now, if you think he's going to suck once the race starts and he's only just a one lap guy, well, then maybe that's what you do. But I think Brian's point's kind of interesting. So, like, let's see, driver to win stage 1. I think it's back up here. Yeah. So you can get. I love it. They're in alphabetical order, so nobody knows. Chase is 6-1. Bell's 450. Denny 550. Logano 850. Larson 4.5. Ross at 12-1. I don't hate.
That's stage 1 winner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but he's not gonna.
Ty Gibbs at 9-1. Ty Gibbs at 9-1 is kind of fun.
Yeah, he was one of the ones that I looked at just based on his qualifying efforts here. But
if he qualifies really well and gets in the front and has a good stage 1 and then does something stupid in stage 2, or unless it's like last year where he just crashes in the first lap, but I think it's a fine bet.
Yeah, I'm going back and I'm trying to look here. So interesting enough, the first 2 spring races that we had here in Phoenix, William Byron won stage 1 both times.
Is 7-1.
And he won stage 1 in the 2023 championship series after starting on pole.
You know what I'm going to do, Brian? Since there's not a lot of stuff I want to bet, William Byron, stage 1.
Okay. Even so, of the 3 spring Gen 7 races, the stage winner, the stage 1 winner has been either third twice, William Byron, or Tyler Reddick last year, 6th. Neither of the front row guys has won the first stage in the spring races, which I might be on an island here. I weigh heavier than the championship weekends because despite them not necessarily having a real advantage, or so NASCAR says, the championship 4 guys they're always souped up and they're just so much better than everybody.
Well, and the weather.
And there's one guy in particular who I'm looking at this weekend, and everybody knows who's been watching the show for multiple years. That's Joey Logano. He is nowhere near as good in the spring in Phoenix in the Gen 7 car, or even if a recent history for the most part, as he is in the fall race or in the championship when he's actually participating in the championship. So, like, Logano's a guy who gets rated highly here because he's got, I think, 3 or 4 wins career at Phoenix. He's won 2 of the last 3 fall races when he was in the championship. But the other one, when he wasn't in here, he sucked ass. And then in the spring, I think his top finish is either 8th or 9th.
This is kind of fun. Chris Bell wins. Denny Hamlin's top 5, and Ty Gibbs is top 10. That's 25-1.
Yeah, but Denny Hamlin stinks.
He's not going to win. Let's see. I want Bell to win. I want Gibbs top 5, and I want.
Yeah, it was right there. It was Bell, Gibbs top 5, Denny Hamlin. I would rather play that, honestly.
30, yeah.
But I'm not playing. No way.
Yeah. I'm definitely not playing this one. Who would you rather fade Joey Logano to top 5 or Austin Cindric to top 10?
What? Can I just bet neither to happen?
Well, I mean, you could probably find it somewhere. But
yeah, I wish. Man.
Yeah, that's funny. Anything else you want to look at?
Man, my card sucks this week.
Yeah, it's early. We have time. We don't need to. You have literally nothing on there. You're gonna add anything?
I don't think so, man. So outside of the wild numbers I've gotten on McDowell to top 10, Herbst to top 10, and the McDowell crazy outright of 250, personally offshore, there's nothing that I've seen that I'm like running to the window to buy, as opposed to last week when I couldn't contain myself with McDowell over Suarez. There's too many things that I still got to see out of the practice session with the option tire. And then just even afterwards, we don't know how the race is going to transpire with randomized cautions. I mean, who knows? Anytime you got Ricky Stenhouse and Austin Cindric or Austin Dillon in the field, caution can come at the most inopportune time for the best car. So I've said this on Twitter multiple times today. It's going to be a live betting race for me, I believe, from the outright market in particular.
Yeah, and despite being like late on Tuesday, today's Tuesday. Let's see.
Honestly, I really wanted to find matchups to fade Logano with, but the guys that he's pinned against are all like favorites against him, and they're a number that I'm not comfortable playing before seeing the cars.
You could also, maybe our friends over at BetMGM in the desert will give you some.
Man, they haven't dropped good stuff in ages.
Ross minus 105 versus Chase.
Elliott qualifies well, and he does good here.
Well,
He's just solid.
mm. 80-1 top Toyota on Riley Herbst. You could add that.
No.
Okay.
That's a dart throwaway thing. I'm not.
McDowell 60-1 top Chevy.
Oh man, no.
All right. Well, Brian's just not betting anything at this point. So scoop back around to see who he likes once
Hold on.
qualifying him.
I might have found one.
Oh, let me hear it.
All right. Just for show purposes. All right. Kyle Larson minus 130 over Denny Hamlin.
Props to you. Good luck. Hopefully he ends the race with 4 tires on like he started.
All right.
I will not be joining you on that, so he'll probably be fine. So that's Brian's bet.
That's at Bet ESPN, by the way.
I'll pull it up real quick. Let's see. Motorsports. Bowman versus Bubba. Bubba at minus, basically even with Bowman's kind of interesting. Yeah, there's nothing that I'm like.
That's what I'm saying, man. Even that Larson Hamlin bet, the juice is crap, but just to have something on here for us, I'll play this.
Yep. So Larson over Hamlin for Brian. I have Gibbs 28 and McDowell 200.
That sounds ridiculous.
Yeah, and then William, not William State. Oh, here we go. Could actually type William Byron to win stage 1, 7-1. Ty Gibbs to win stage 1, 9-1. Have like not even a unit, just over a unit and a half, basically, which is very unlike me. So we're not getting crazy. Brian and I actually have about the same amount on the race. It's like Brian having 1 bet and I have 4 bets. As a reminder, drop your comment below if you can attend the truck race with your winner of Phoenix.
Hashtag LV Trucks.
And if you can't attend or don't want to attend because you've got stuff going on, just let us know who you like. Just don't use the hashtag and you'll be fine. Also, check out Win the Race. It's a great time to jump in. We got Phoenix. You could do a month pass. You get Phoenix. You get Vegas. You get some fun race in Miami, Homestead. It's a good month of NASCAR to jump in, get access to the Discord, have all that conversations, have a really good time over there. Check out our Substack, AOP Podcast at substack.com. Subscribe now so you get it on race day on Sunday. Brian will be in Phoenix. Brian and I will both be in Vegas, and then Brian will be in Miami. Brian's just a road warrior at this point. So if you are in Phoenix, Vegas, or Miami, please hit us up.
And don't forget, Grid Rival. Use code AOP25. You get a deposit match up to $100. They post a lot of great driver matchups and or race finishing positions. Kyle and I, we post a couple of slips in our newsletter, and keep an eye out for our Twitter handles at Brian_Twining and at Notorious KRO, because throughout the week, we will be tweeting out other plays that aren't necessarily included at the end of week stuff either.
Yep. So we'll put some Grid Rival pick slips out. We'll obviously have in the newsletter. We'll try and they don't. It's hard to share the screen because they don't really have a web app. It's all based on their phone. So it's hard to share. But we'll tweet some stuff out with some thoughts.
Thank you for sticking around for our longer than normal
Yeah,
show.
we've been like going super long, but I think it's because we're having so much fun. Also, jump in the listeners league. It's been a wild ride so far. I think I was 6th after Atlanta, and then I dropped to 43rd. Now I'm back up to 20 something. You can sign drivers for up to 3 races. You get their salary for whatever it is.
5 races, sir.
5?
5
Okay.
races.
And you can keep it going. That's completely free, and we're gonna give out some cool NASCAR prizes at the end of the year. We're still accumulating. If there's stuff you would like to see in there, or if you're like, just give me a damn gift card, or like last year we just paid cash, holler at us in the comments. Let us know down there. But that is Brian Twining. I'm Kyle Robert. Enjoy the rest of your week. We'll be back Saturday to recap all of practice and qualifying, build some Drafkings lineups, give you some ownership projections for our friends over at Win the Race, give you our final betting card, get you over to the Substack to check out our newsletter for race day. Always check out Chris Wermey's Furious Pulse Sunday morning, and
Very
get ready
important
for
information.
another action-packed race, this time live from Phoenix. That's Brian. I'm Kyle. Appreciate you all for sticking around, and we'll talk to you next time.